This is not just a line on a map. This is one of the most dangerous places on Earth. The border between India and Pakistan is a scar on the face of the subcontinent, a place where survival is a daily struggle. It stretches for thousands of kilometers, a testament to a history written in blood and mistrust. Here, the very air crackles with tension. You can feel it in the soldiers' eyes, in the coils of razor wire, and in the silence of the no man's land. This is a frontier where two nations, born from the same motherland, now stand as nuclear-armed adversaries, staring each other down across a divide that is both man-made and forged by nature itself. To understand this place, you have to understand its raw, unforgiving nature. This border is a living, breathing thing. It changes with the seasons, from the frozen, oxygen-starved heights of the Himalayas to the scorching, dusty plains of the Punjab. It is a place of extreme contrasts. One moment you are in a landscape that seems designed by gods to keep people apart. The next you are in a flat, open field where armies could clash with terrifying speed. Every rock, every river, every mountain pass has a story to tell, a story of conflict, of division, and of the sheer human will to endure in the face of overwhelming odds. It is a true survival zone. The danger here is constant. It is not just about the soldiers and their guns. It is in the landmines hidden beneath the soil, in the threat of sudden artillery fire, and in the political storms that can erupt with no warning. For the millions of people who live along this frontier, life is lived on a knife's edge. They are farmers, herders, and villagers caught in the crossfire of a conflict far bigger than themselves. They have learnt to read the signs, to know when to take cover, and to live with a level of uncertainty that would break most people. Their resilience is incredible, a lesson in human spirit against a backdrop of permanent hostility. This border is a paradox. It is a place of absolute separation, yet it is also a place where cultures and histories are deeply intertwined. The languages, the food, the traditions, they bleed across the line, reminders of a time before the divide. It is this shared past that makes the current conflict so tragic. Two peoples who have so much in common are now defined by what keeps them apart. And at the heart of it all lies the geography, a powerful force that has shaped this conflict from the very beginning and continues to dictate the terms of survival for everyone involved. It is an epic struggle of man versus man, with nature as the unforgiving referee. Look north, and you see the Titans, the Himalayas. These are not just mountains, they are a fortress of rock and ice. This is the roof of the world, a place of breathtaking beauty and brutal hardship. The air is thin, the temperatures plummet, and survival is a battle against the elements. This is where the famous line of control, or low C, snakes its way through the disputed region of Kashmir. The geography here is a natural barrier. It isolates communities, makes military movement a nightmare, and creates a landscape where a few determined defenders can hold off a much larger force. The peaks and valleys have become the very definition of the division, a physical manifestation of the political chasm between the two nations. Now travel south from those icy peaks. The landscape transforms completely. You leave the mountains behind and enter the vast flat plains of the Punjab. This is the heartland, the breadbasket for both countries. It is a world away from the high-altitude wilderness of Kashmir. Here the land is open, fertile, and fatally vulnerable. There are no natural barriers to speak of, no great mountains or impassable canyons to slow an invading army. This is tank country. The short distance between major cities like Amritsar in India and Lahore in Pakistan, just 50 kilometers, means that a conflict here could escalate with terrifying speed. The geography offers no protection, only a clear path for destruction. The rivers are the lifeblood of this entire region. The mighty Indus River and its tributaries flow down from the mountains, carving their way through the land and sustaining millions of people. For Pakistan, the Indus is everything. It is the source of water for over 80% of its agriculture and population. But here is the critical point. The headwaters of these rivers are in Indian-controlled territory. This gives India immense strategic leverage. The flow of water is a powerful tool, a potential weapon that can be more decisive than any army. The 1960 Indus Waters Treaty was meant to manage this shared resource, but it hangs by a thread, a fragile agreement in a land of deep-seated animosity. So you see, the geography here is a double-edged sword. In the north, it creates a high-stakes, difficult-to-control battleground in Kashmir, where the terrain itself is an enemy. The mountains divide and isolate. In the south, the open plains remove all obstacles, creating a corridor for rapid all-out war. And weaving through it all is the water, a source of life that can be turned into a tool of coercion. This unique combination of peaks, plains, and rivers has not just witnessed the conflict, it has actively shaped it, making the India-Pakistan border one of the most complex and dangerous frontiers on the planet. To understand the raw wound of this border, you have to go back to 1947, the end of the British Raj. Instead of a celebration of freedom, it descended into chaos. The decision to partition British India into two independent nations, Hindu-majority India and Muslim-majority Pakistan, was made in a hurry. A line was drawn on a map by a British lawyer who had never even been to India before. This line, the Radcliffe Line, sliced through provinces, villages, and even houses, sundering a land that had been whole for centuries. It was a decision that unleashed a storm of violence and displacement on an unimaginable scale. The result was one of the largest and most brutal migrations in human history. Millions of people found themselves on the wrong side of the new border. Hindus and Sikhs living in what was now Pakistan scrambled to get to India. Muslims in India fled in the opposite direction. Estimates say that around 14 to 15 million people were uprooted, forced to leave their ancestral homes with nothing but what they could carry. They traveled on foot, in overloaded trains, and in bullock carts, forming vast, desperate columns of humanity. These journeys were fraught with peril. Mobs, driven by religious fury, attacked the convoys, leading to massacres of horrific cruelty. The violence was apocalyptic. Entire communities were wiped out. Up to 2 million people are believed to have been killed in the communal bloodbath that followed partition. It was a period of utter madness, where neighbors turned on neighbors and the bonds of a shared culture were shattered by religious extremism. This trauma is seared into the collective memory of both nations. The stories of loss, survival, and horror have been passed down through generations, forming the bedrock of the mistrust and animosity that persists to this day. The border was not just drawn with ink. It was carved with the sword and soaked in the blood of millions. This violent birth left a festering wound, the dispute over Kashmir. It was a princely state with a Muslim majority but a Hindu ruler. At the time of partition, its leader chose to accede to India, a decision that Pakistan has never accepted. This laid the foundation for the first war between the two new countries in 1947 and has been the primary cause of conflict ever since. The chaos of partition did not end in 1947, it simply created a permanent state of conflict. The border became a symbol of that unresolved trauma, a constant reminder of the painful division and the ghosts of the past that refused to rest. The decades that followed partition were not peaceful. The border became a battlefield. 3 major wars were fought between India and Pakistan, in 1947 to 48, 1965, and 1971. Each conflict deepened the scars and hardened the animosity. The open plains of the Punjab saw fierce tank battles, while the mountains of Kashmir became a theater for grueling infantry combat. The 1971 war was particularly decisive. It led to the creation of Bangladesh from what was formerly East Pakistan, a humiliating defeat for the Pakistani military. This defeat changed their strategy. They realized they could not win a conventional war against a much larger India. So, they turned to a different kind of warfare. After 1971, the nature of the conflict shifted. Pakistan began to support insurgent groups and proxies in Indian-administered Kashmir. The goal was to wage a low-intensity war of 1,000 cuts, to bleed India without provoking an all-out conventional war. This turned Kashmir into one of the most militarized zones on the planet. The line of control became a place of constant skirmishes, artillery duels, and infiltration attempts. Soldiers from both sides dug into fortified positions, often just meters away from each other, living in a state of perpetual high alert. The border was no longer just a line. It was a trench, a front line in a forever war. Then, in 1998, the stakes were raised to an apocalyptic level. In response to India's nuclear tests, Pakistan conducted its own, and both nations officially became nuclear-armed powers. Suddenly, the constant border skirmishes and standoffs carried a terrifying new risk, the threat of nuclear annihilation. The doctrine of mutually assured destruction was supposed to prevent a major war, but it also created a dangerous stability-instability paradox. Both sides felt they could engage in limited conventional conflict or support proxy actions under the safety of their nuclear umbrella, believing the other side would not dare to escalate to the nuclear level. This made the border even more dangerous. This new reality was tested multiple times, most notably during the Kargil War in 1999 and the 2001 to 2002 military standoff. The geography of the region amplified these risks. The lack of natural barriers in the south meant that any miscalculation could lead to a rapid escalation, while the difficult terrain in Kashmir made it easy for small-scale incidents to spiral out of control. The border became a permanent flashpoint, a place where the combination of historical grievances, geographic vulnerabilities, and nuclear weapons created the most volatile and dangerous security environment in the world. Every gunshot, every border crossing carried the potential for catastrophe. The year 2025 brought the world closer to the brink than it had been in decades. The fuse was lit on April 22 with a brutal terrorist attack on a tourist resort in Pahalgam, in Indian-administered Kashmir. 26 people were killed, and India immediately blamed a Pakistan-based militant group. The response was swift and severe. India did something it had never done before. On April 23, it suspended the 1960 Indus Waters Treaty, effectively weaponizing the water that is Pakistan's lifeline. Diplomatic ties were cut, the main land border was sealed, and visas were cancelled. The message was clear. This time, the rules had changed. The crisis was escalating at a terrifying pace. What followed was a new kind of war, a frightening glimpse into the future of conflict. On May 7, India launched Operation Sindoor, a series of precision strikes using advanced cruise missiles and drones. The targets were not just along the border, they hit deep inside Pakistani territory. This was a major escalation. For the first time, weapons like the BrahMos and Scalp EG missiles were used in combat. Pakistan did not hesitate to retaliate. It unleashed its own short-range ballistic missiles and deployed its fleet of combat drones, marking the first real drone war between the two nuclear powers. The sky above the border became a high-tech battleground. The four-day conflict from May 7th to May 10th was short but incredibly intense. It was a war of machines. Pakistani air defenses, reportedly using advanced Chinese systems, had surprising success, downing several Indian fighter jets. In response, India sent in more drones to hunt and destroy Pakistani radar installations. It was a deadly game of cat and mouse, played out with terrifying speed and precision. While the high-tech air war raged, the old-fashioned fighting continued along the line of control, with intense artillery and small arms fire claiming the lives of soldiers and civilians caught in the middle. The world watched in horror as the two rivals showcased their newest and deadliest toys. The fighting only stopped when the major global powers stepped in. On May 9th, U.S. intelligence picked up alarming signs that the conflict was about to spiral completely out of control, possibly towards the nuclear threshold. Frantic, high-level diplomacy, led by the American Vice President and Secretary of State, managed to broker a ceasefire on May 10th. As the smoke cleared, both sides predictably declared victory. But the reality on the ground was one of fear and disruption. Schools were closed, airports were shut down, and thousands were evacuated from their homes. The 2025 crisis was a stark warning. Even with nuclear weapons providing a deterrent, new technologies have made rapid, devastating conventional war more likely than ever. The geography of this border is the ultimate paradox. It is the very thing that keeps these two nations locked in a state of perpetual conflict. The towering Himalayas in Kashmir create a natural fortress, a disputed territory that is easy to defend and almost impossible to fully conquer, ensuring the conflict there remains a bloody stalemate. The open, flat plains of the Punjab offer no such protection, creating a permanent sense of vulnerability and forcing both sides to maintain massive armies in a state of high readiness. The land itself seems engineered for confrontation, a landscape that magnifies mistrust and makes peace a distant dream. Yet, this same geography is also what binds the people together. Before the political line was drawn, the rivers, mountains, and plains were part of a single, interconnected ecosystem. The people of the Punjab, on both sides of the border, share a common language, a common agricultural heritage, and a common culture that has been shaped over centuries by the same 5 rivers. They listen to the same music, enjoy the same food, and share family ties that the border cannot completely sever. These shared cultural roots are a powerful reminder that the division is political, not natural, The land that separates the states does not have to separate the people. There have been brief moments of hope, fleeting instances where cooperation has triumphed over conflict. The Indus Waters Treaty, for all its recent fragility, stood for over 60 years as a testament to the fact that even the bitterest of rivals can find common ground when survival is at stake. The Lahore Declaration in 1999 and various ceasefire agreements have shown that dialogue is possible. These moments are rare, but they prove that the future is not yet written. They suggest that the shared challenges posed by the geography, like managing water resources in the face of climate change, could one day become a catalyst for cooperation rather than conflict. So, what is the future for this troubled frontier? Will the geography forever condemn India and Pakistan to be enemies? Or can it one day become a bridge? The answer is not simple. The weight of history is heavy and the scars are deep, but geography is a force of nature indifferent to human politics. The rivers will continue to flow, and the mountains will continue to stand, reminding both nations of their shared dependence on the same piece of earth. Perhaps in the long run, the ultimate survival challenge will not be defeating each other, but learning to live with the land and with each other. That may be the only path to a lasting peace.